History, a premier and paramount priority for progress of a people, arguably the single most important cultural property. It is the great unifier of all societies, from classical to contemporary. It is the shining beacon that restores vision to the blind. It is imperative that we create a unified effort to learn from it, that we may emulate its successes and prevent repeating its mistakes. For without history, we are without purpose. We are without identity. Welcome to the gray area, where we examine history in hindsight. January 29th, 1845, Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven was published for the first time in the New York Evening Mirror. 1850, Henry Clay introduced in the Senate a compromise bill on slavery that included the admission of California into the Union as a free state. 1861, Kansas becomes the 34th state. 1886, the first successful petrol-driven motor carriage in Europe is built by Carl Benz. 1924, R. Taylor patents the ice cream cone rolling machine. 1949, the Newport News was commissioned as the first ever air-conditioned naval vessel in Virginia. 1979, then President Jimmy Carter formally welcomes the Chinese Vice Premier Deng Xiaoping to the White House. The visit followed the establishment of diplomatic relations. What did they entail? Exporting manufacturing to China. It would lead to America's deindustrialization. 1988, United Airlines Boeing 747 SP circles the world in an astounding 36 hours, 54 minutes, and 15 seconds. 2001, in Indonesia, thousands of student protesters stormed the parliament property and demanded that President Abdurrahman Wahid quit due to his alleged involvement in two corruption scandals. Wahid announced that he would not resign despite clear evidence of the suspected corruption. 2014, scientists discover how to convert normal cells into stem cells in mice. 2018, the Marvel film Black Panther, directed by Ryan Coogler, premieres in Los Angeles. It would go on to become one of the top grossing films in film history. But rewinding all the way back to 1905, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia is unsettled by the rising violence and protests, enacts reforms to improve the conditions of laborers, in which these changes would ultimately do little to stop the ongoing disorder throughout Russia, leading up to the political split of the Russian Social Democratic Labor's Party, which was initially organized to unite the various revolutionary organizations under the Russian Empire into one party, was formed in 1898, and the Russian Socialist Democratic Laborers Party split into two primary factions: the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, and the Mensheviks, led by Julius Martov. Lenin would argue for a small party of professional revolutionaries with a large fringe of non-party sympathizers and supporters, which became the Bolshevik model, which ironically translates to majority. Martov, on the other hand, who was heavily influenced by Leon Trotsky, disagreed with the Leninist model, believing it was better to have a large party of activists, and this became the Bolshevik model, which ironically translates into minority. The Bolshevik faction eventually would become the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, and it would bring an end to the reign of Nicholas II under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin, who deposed him. You see, history, much like time, waits for no man. It is ultimately up to us to decide whether we choose to make it or be the reason we repeat it. However, no matter what side of it that you stand on, you can only learn from it by looking at history in hindsight.